Good evening, dear listeners of the Forest Spirits channel. Today we'll hear a story about how a woman ventures onto a frozen lake, drawn by mysterious melodies and strange cracks. At dawn, the frozen lake shimmered softly with a silvery glow, broken only by the faint sound of shifting ice and distant wind. Emma stood by the water, her breath forming fragile clouds in the crisp air as her gaze fixed on the mirrored frost-covered surface. Her footsteps pressed quietly into the snow, matching the stillness of winter. Suddenly, she heard a distant melodic hum beneath the ice, stirring her curiosity. She hesitated before cautiously stepping onto the frozen surface, feeling a strange unease amid the cold scent of pine and earth. Her gaze stayed fixed on the surface, seeking clues to the haunting melody's source. Her heart pounded, a mix of longing and fear tightening her chest as she moved outward. The sounds grew louder, layered with creaking ice, sensing with her pulse, and drawing her toward the center of the frozen lake. She scanned the whiteness for any sign beneath it, feeling oppressed by silence, except for that faint, eerie song beckoning her deeper. A strange attraction and dread pushed her forward until a sudden crack interrupted, startling her. Her breath caught as she froze, eyes on the widening fissure across the ice, small but threatening to split open completely. Her fingers pressed against the cold surface, sensing its tremor beneath. She hesitated should she retreat or continue. The mysterious call persisted, urging her to stay as a gust of wind carried a soft human-like whisper, gentle, desperate, distant. Emma's grip tightened as her instincts urged her to retreat and find safety ashore, but curiosity and duty kept her fixed. The crack grew wider, revealing a dark shape beneath the ice, moving beyond her sight and stirring beneath the frozen surface. Her eyes focused on the silhouette, battling to understand its creature, memory's echo, or something entirely unknown hidden beneath ice and time. Fear and wonder clenched her chest, each heartbeat loud in her ears. Her fists pressed against the cold-through gloves as her mind raced with questions. The eerie melody intensified, pulling her closer like an invisible thread. The crack stretched further across the ice, threatening to break apart completely. Emma hesitated, then cautiously stepped back, staring into the abyss below, with the haunting tune echoing in her mind. Her heart pounded like a primal drumbeat amid rising tension. Suddenly, a gust of wind brought a distant cry, soft, mournful echoing from below. She froze again, watching as the shadow beneath became clearer and more alive. Something was calling her from beneath the ice, a long-hidden secret in silence. Her fingers trembled as she reached out, nails scraping the cold surface and feeling the icy resistance beneath. This time, she saw the crack wasn't just a fissure, but a sign of ice weakening with unstable edges and a flickering shadow below that seemed aware of her gaze. Emma instinctively wanted to back off before it broke, but a strange duty pushed her to move forward. Remembering her goal to reveal the truth and understand what lay underneath, her resolve grew stronger. She stepped back, watching the crack for signs of danger while contemplating. Was it a trapped animal, an ancient relic, or something darker? Her peaceful morning had vanished, lurking beneath was danger she had stirred. The melody ceased briefly into tense silence, broken only by faint ice creaks. Steadying herself with a deep breath, she faced a choice to retreat or risk uncovering what hid beneath. Her choice was motivated not only by her quest for answers, but also by a growing sense that this moment was crucial in an encounter that could alter her view of the world. As she prepared to step back, a sudden gust of wind brought a whisper, a faint, almost human voice, calling her name from below. Her eyes widened. The shadow beneath the ice shifted again, darker and more distinct. Whatever lurked below was now aware of her presence. Her fingers clenched into fists as her mind raced with the implications. She understood she couldn't ignore the call or turn away without risking missing the truth. With one final, determined look at the fissure, Emma made her decision. She would stay, observe, and listen. The ice might crack further, and the shadow might reveal itself, but she was ready to face whatever lay beneath. The calm of the morning had been broken. Reality was more intricate, dangerous, and compelling than she had previously believed. This marked just the start of a revelation that would challenge her beliefs and reshape her connection to the icy world around her. Emma cautiously moved closer to the jagged ice fissure, her breath forming faint clouds in the chilly morning air. The pale sunlight cast a soft glow over the frozen surface, emphasizing the fractured edges where it had split apart. Beneath lies dark water shimmering with an oily gloss reflecting the cloudless sky above, yet its depths flickered with an unnatural, mesmerizing light pulsing softly. During the night, the frost deepened and bit into her skin, yet her eyes remained fixed on the widening crack across the lake, which stretched like a sinister scar, growing steadily as if eager to swallow everything. Small ice fragments broke away and gently tinkled onto the crust, while the fissure's edges looked fragile, ready to collapse. Emma tightened her grip on her coat, tense with both fear and curiosity. Despite the growing danger pressing against her chest, she stepped closer, driven by an irresistible urge to explore what lay beneath. She dropped to her knees and peered cautiously into the opening. Its depth was greater than it looked from above, revealing swirling icy sediment layers underneath. Cold seeped into her bones, but she ignored it, captivated by shadows moving within the water. The currents below twisted unnaturally, almost alive and beckoning her closer. A faint glow flickered below, soft and rhythmic, like a heartbeat just out of reach. Her pulse sped up as an inexplicable pull urged her to examine more closely. Suddenly, a tiny ripple disturbed the surface. She froze in place. Her eyes widened as she saw something shifting beneath the vague shape or shadow drifting under the ice. The glow grew slightly brighter and pulsed in time with her heartbeat. An almost magnetic desire took hold of her to reach into the depths and uncover what was hidden within. Her hand paused over the ice before gradually pressing down, testing its slick, shiny surface, delicate yet deceptively durable. The ice groaned as a small section near her palm cracked open, splashing into the water beneath. Emma recoiled instinctively, adrenaline rushing through her veins. The sound echoed loudly in the silent morning, breaking the calm of the frozen lake. Her eyes moved to the widening crack, exposing even more of the dark abyss below. She understood this fissure was no ordinary crack. It was a doorway, a fragile gateway into the unknown and possibly perilous. A gust of wind swept across the ice, sharp and cold, causing her to shiver despite her layers. The breeze carried a faint whisper, a voice calling her name in an almost hypnotic tone. Her heart pounded fiercely, but her resolve strengthened. Turning back was no longer an option after everything she had endured. Her gaze stayed on the glowing depths, feeling as if the lake itself was trying to send signals holding clues to her fears, memories, and maybe her destiny. She took a steady breath and reached into her coat pocket for a worn cloth bundle, her grandmother's scarf, symbolizing warmth and comfort, its familiar softness anchored or amidst growing unease. Slowly and deliberately, she moved closer to the edge, peering into the darkness below. The water shimmered again, revealing a shadow or drifting shape beneath the surface, uncertain if natural or sinister. Her mind raced, but she stayed calm, pressing her hand against the fragile ice which trembled under her touch. She faced a choice: retreat or venture into the unknown, as a faint melody rose from below, seeming to communicate. Emma's breath caught at the haunting tune that echoed or passed, fueling her resolve to explore. She leaned forward, eyes on the glowing depths, aware her decision could alter everything about the lake and herself. A gust of wind carried a whisper from the darkness, urging her onward while clutching her grandmother's scarf for strength. She took a deep breath, moved closer to the edge, and watched a shadow shift beneath the water. The crack was no longer just a fissure but a doorway, leading to truths she hadn't yet understood. As she prepared to decide, a soft melodic whisper rose from below, matching her heartbeat. Emma's eyes grew determined. Whatever lay beneath, she was ready to confront it. Clenching her scarf tighter, she took a final breath before stepping forward into the unknown, knowing her journey and possibly her very identity would change forever. Her breath created fragile clouds in the cold winter air as she cautiously approached the jagged ice fissure. The pale sun cast a muted glow over the icy landscape, its faint light illuminating the dark edges of the crack against the snow. Her fingertips tingled from cold, but her gaze stayed fixed on the faint movement within the crevice. A slight flicker of motion caught her attention, a tiny shivering form trapped between icy walls. A soft whimper escaped, fragile and desperate. Heart aching with empathy, Emma knelt slowly on the snow-covered ice and looked inside. Through translucent ice, she saw a small figure, fur soaked and matted, struggling to free itself from the narrow gap. Its white eyes reflected fear and helplessness as it silently begged for help. Suddenly, the wind rose again, howling across the frozen lake and carrying an ominous groan from beneath the cracking ice. Emma's eyes widened as she saw the crack grow wider, her heart pounding. She hesitated briefly before reaching out to help the trapped animal, despite the danger of breaking the ice. The crack under her shifted again, more visibly this time, warning of imminent failure. Emma's stomach tightened. Emma gently pulled the sled back, safety in mind, as the creature whined softly and pressed against her hand. The ice under her shifted violently, more fiercely than before. Emma's heart pounded as she saw the crack grow quickly, risking complete breakage. She hurried off the ice, clutching her sled, slipping slightly on the slick surface. The wind roared louder as the ice rippled, making each step risky. With trembling legs, she pushed forward, holding her small animal tightly and aiming for the distant shoreline. A deep rumble echoed across the lake, more cracking and groaning of breaking ice. Breathing hard, she reached the fissure's edge and saw the solid snowbank ahead. She steadied her sled and pulled herself onto firm ground with her tiny passenger, just before the ice shuddered again. Collapsing on her knees, she looked back at the dangerous cracks that threatened to swallow all beneath her. Despite her exhaustion, Emma felt a glimmer of hope as the trembling creature pressed into her hand. signaling she was no longer trapped on unstable ice, but safe for now. The wind briefly eased, leaving only the creaking ice as a reminder of nature's power and her resilience. Looking across the frozen landscape, she recognized that dangers still lurked beneath the surface, and her journey was far from over. With newfound strength from saving the small animal, she prepared to face whatever lay ahead, knowing quick thinking made all the difference. Emma tightened her grip on the sled handles as biting wind tore through her coat, each crack underfoot reminding her of ice's fragility while she cautiously moved forward. As the sunset faded, long shadows stretched over cracked ice, flickering like ghostly fingers while the wind howled, blinding her with snow. She knew one wrong step could send her into icy depths. Suddenly, a loud crack mate or freeze and heart race as the fissure widened beneath her. The ice shifted threateningly. She carefully shifted her weight, cautious of the danger behind her. Ahead, the sled jolted from a fresh split, revealing dark water below. Emma's eyes widened as she fought panic, moving toward thicker, more stable ice, while her trembling wolf cub was comforted in her arms. The howling wind worsened, snow stinging her face and blurring her vision as she cautiously moved forward, knowing the unstable ice could crack beneath her. She saw the firm ice below her safe spot amid chaos, but her heart raced with awareness of what's ahead. Her eyes stayed fixed on the distant horizon where the last light faded behind shadowed peaks, deepening her understanding of the ice's fragility and hidden water. The immediate danger was gone, but now she felt the environment's unpredictability more personally and urgently. Carefully, she removed the wolf cub from the sled, holding it close to her chest. Despite her fatigue, a faint hope glimmered inside her. She had learned the ice's true nature, and knew patience and vigilance were vital. Taking a deep breath of icy air, she prepared for what lay ahead. The dangerous landscape still loomed, but she carried a sharper awareness. Survival demanded constant adaptation and respect for the environment's silent, deadly rhythm. Emma sat stiffly under the dim oil lamp light, feeling oppressed by the house's heavy silence. Outside, the wind had fallen silent, yet an eerie hum remained as if secrets from beneath the frozen lake were whispering through its icy surface. Her ears strained against the quiet as faint vibrations seemed to pulse through the wooden walls. Suddenly, a deep drone shattered silence, a rhythmic vibration resonating in her bones from beneath the ice itself. Her fingers trembled as she pulled her blanket tighter, sensing this wasn't any ordinary winter night. The sound was unnatural and heavy, like the lake itself coming alive. The house responded softly, creaking along with those vibrations, and Emma's heart quickened with dread and curiosity alike. Something lurked beneath the frozen surface, sending a dark, ominous message. Emma, trembling, stared at the cracking ice. Her heartbeat quickened as she gazed into the darkness, uncertain of what she saw. Was it an entity, a shifting form, or the lake's ancient hidden force? The vibrations peaked, then suddenly stopped, leaving an intense silence. Only her heavy breathing broke the quiet in the cold night air. Emma stepped back, her hand on the doorframe, trying to understand what had just happened. Was that sound a warning, a signal, or the start of something frightening? Her eyes returned to the ice, trembling with renewed energy as cracks spread faster and movement beneath grew more frantic. The lake seemed alive with unseen power whispering secrets she dared not hear. Suddenly, a metallic clang echoed from beneath something breaking free. Emma's stomach clenched as the fractured surface shattered more, revealing a dark shifting mass underneath. Her breath suddenly caught, her mind scrambled with questions. Was it a beast, an ancient power, or her worst fears coming true? As vibrations grew stronger again, she saw her curiosity turn into stark awareness of danger. Without knowing why, she felt compelled to act, yet her body stayed still, stuck between fleeing and fighting. The dark shape beneath the ice moved again, faster now, as if stirred by the chaos above. The lake's surface cracked wider, a jagged opening beneath her feet. The vibrations peaked, and a deep hum filled her entire being, a deafening sound, blurring reality and nightmare. In her paralysis, Emma realized this was no ordinary event. Something ancient and mighty was awakening after centuries of silence. Her earlier belief that nature simply responded to cold or pressure was broken. This was a conscious emergence. Her sense of solitude shifted to understanding. She was no longer just an observer, but an unwitting witness to something that could change everything. A quick movement under the broken ice caught her eye, a dark shape darting below before vanishing into shadows. Shock widened her eyes as her body tensed. She instinctively reached for an object nearby for defense. Suddenly, the vibrations stopped, leaving an unsettling silence pressing on her chest. The shape disappeared, but the presence remained heavy and palpable. Emma hesitated, processing what had awakened beneath the ice. This was no natural occurrence. A hidden force had stirred after generations. Her false sense of safety was gone, the night's calm shattered by something ancient beneath the frozen surface. Standing at the broken ice, she felt a new determination grow. She could no longer ignore what she had seen. The silent night ended. The outside world had changed forever. She was now more than a witness aware of danger and about to uncover truths that would transform her life. Emma stayed still at the ice's edge, inhaling shallowly as dawn struggled through thick clouds. The crack widened, jagged and threatening to break entirely, each groan echoing her fragile world's fragility. A cold wind swept past with sharp bite, reflecting lurking peril beneath her feet. Her fist clenched tightly, eyes fixed on the widening fissure with dread and resolve in her heart. The ancient ice was weakening due to recent tremors and temperature swings, risking collapse. She stepped back, scanning for safety, an outcrop or strong tree, any refuge. The terrain was dangerous, broken snow-covered ice, hidden crevices, and a dark forest in the distance, offering little hope. Suddenly, a figure appeared behind frost-covered bushes. Marcus approached quickly, concerned but determined, with snow on his coat and a rope over his shoulder. Emma, he whispered urgently, voice tense. We don't have much time. The crack is widening faster than expected. He looked at the expanding fissure, then at her. We must find a safer spot where the ice won't break beneath us. She nodded sharply, fighting rising panic. It's growing, she whispered, trembling. The crack, it's almost twice as big as before. Her eyes darted between the chasm and horizon, searching for escape. The wind roared louder, pulling her coat and whipping her hair into her eyes, obscuring vision. The ice below seemed to pulse like it had a consciousness, sensing danger. Marcus moved closer, speaking softly. There's an old narrow ice channel that's less broken, runs parallel to the shoreline. We might cross there before it widens further if we hurry. He met her eyes for confirmation. It's risky. The ice could be thinner, and the wind makes judging stability tricky. We must be precise. Emma paused, feeling the gravity of the moment pressing down. Her fingers touched her pendant from her husband, providing solace amid chaos. She glanced at the widening crack and at Marcus's resolute face and said steadily, "We can't stay here. We have to try." They carefully navigated the edge, each step deliberate, ears alert for any cracking beneath. The wind scream intensified, as if warning to retreat. Emma's eyes flicked to the dark, glossy ice ahead, potentially dangerous and unstable. Her breath caught at a faint glimmer of the channel Marcus pointed out, a fragile strip between fractured sections. "Come on," Marcus said, offering a steady hand. "Stay close. If it cracks, we back off immediately." His tone was firm but tense beneath. Emma grabbed his hand, feeling his icy grip, and tiptoed onto the narrow path. The cracking was barely audible until a distant roar announced a large piece breaking off into the water with a spray. She froze, heart pounding again as the fissure widened briefly, then steadied. Wind whipped her hair and coat fiercely as the strip quivered with each step. Her mind raced. How long could it last? The thought of falling into icy depths made her shiver, but she clenched her jaw and kept going, refusing to turn back. Suddenly, a loud cracking sound came from behind as Emma turned to see a chunk of ice falling into the water with a deafening splash, splashing her face. She tightened her grip on Marcus's hand, whispering urgently that time was running out. They made it to the opposite shore, shaken but alive. Looking back at the fractured ice, she knew danger remained and had only shifted position. Clinging to hope, she prepared for their next move, feeling the ominous rumble, hinting the ice was still unstable. Determined to find safety beyond the dangerous surface, she hesitated at the edge of the frozen lake, ready to step onto the fragile ice strip with her staff clenched tightly. Next to her, Marcus kept his gaze on the dangerous terrain, speaking softly. "Be careful, one crack could be your last." His eyes moved from faint fissures to the distant shore, carefully checking the ice's stability. A gust of wind swept through leafless trees, carrying a distant muffled rumble like faint thunder, but hard to confirm. Emma's breath fogged in the cold as she watched the icy surface, her eyes scanning every crack and ripple. Each tiny sound made her tense, reminding her how fragile their situation was. She clenched her lips, fighting a shiver that threatened or calm, moving slowly to avoid shifting beneath her. Suddenly, a loud creak beneath her made her freeze mid-step. Her heart raced as she crouched by a jagged crack on the ice, edges sharp like glass and marked by a dark line, signs of weakness. Her pulse accelerated, but she stayed calm, remembering Marcus's advice to test each part carefully. "We must be precise," she whispered quietly. Marcus took a sturdy rope from his pack and tied it around his waist, determined but worried beneath his tense shoulders. "We examine each section carefully. If it appears unstable, we retreat immediately." He gently presses his boot onto the ice, listening for any cracking or movement. The heavy silence is broken only by faint scraping and distant shifting ice sounds. Emma notices a subtle gleam from sunlight on a nearly invisible crack in the surface. She steps over it cautiously, aware of the fragile layer beneath. Memories of her husband's advice about respecting nature's unpredictability flash through her mind. Suppressing fear, she steadies herself and takes careful, deliberate steps, trusting her instincts. Suddenly, a deep hum vibrates through the ice, a low sound from below causing Emma to stumble. She glances at Marcus, whose tense face scans the surface anxiously. It's shifting, he whispers worryingly. We must move fast. The cracking grows louder, and Emma sees part of the ice near her start to dip and tilt, making her stomach tighten. She instinctively grasped Marcus's sleeve tightly, whispering urgently, "We must cross now." They moved carefully across the shifting ice. The landscape blurred as the frozen world seemed to hold its breath. Emma's eyes fixed on the distant shoreline with safer ice as the sunset cast long shadows. A sudden sharp crack broke behind them, and a large ice chunk shattered loudly into the water. Marcus cursed and lunged away, shouting, "Keep moving." Emma quickened her pace towards safety, hearing the cracking sounds grow louder across the frozen surface. Emma's mind drifted to calmer days, lakes shining in sunlight, peaceful evenings so different from the chaos below. Her fingers scraped along the slick surface, searching for stability as her eyes stayed fixed on the distant shore. Every step was a careful negotiation with the fragile ice, balancing trust and caution. Soon, they reached a solid, unbroken stretch of ice firm and seemingly reliable, offering safety. Emma felt relief as she saw the shoreline just beyond the horizon where ice met open water. Marcus caught up beside her, voice strained but steady. "We made it across," he said, nodding at the calm patch ahead, "but stay alert, the surface can change suddenly." They paused briefly, catching their breath as cold seeped into their bones. Emma looked back at what they'd crossed, aware danger might still be lurking beyond. The distant cracking of shifting ice and fading twilight hinted at unseen dangers beneath secrets waiting to emerge. Suddenly, a ripple spread across the ice beneath her feet. Emma's eyes widened as a crack formed near the shore and widened ominously. Her heart pounded fiercely. Instinctively, she grabbed Marcus's arm to steady herself. She urged, voice trembling but resolute, "We must move faster. The ice is shifting again." They pressed forward cautiously, terrain groaning beneath them as the landscape held its breath. Emma quickly calculated a safer route, senses heightened and focus sharp. Near the shoreline, she saw fractured ice and unstable surfaces around her, then spotted a broader patch ahead. Determined, she moved faster until reaching the safer water's edge, where fragile ice threatened collapse. Marcus signaled to follow him onto a narrower yet more solid strip, before a thunderous crack warned of imminent danger. At that crucial moment, Emma's view shifted as she saw how unstable the landscape truly was. Her confidence diminished, and respect grew for nature's unpredictability. Realizing their safety depended on vigilance and quick adaptation, they finally reached firm ice. Exhaustion overwhelmed her, but relief washed over her as she stepped onto it. The shoreline was near, with sunset reflecting on open water. Marcus smiled faintly, saying, "We've survived the worst, but warned the real challenge begins outside this frozen trap." Moving away from cracked ice, Emma's thoughts advanced. Danger wasn't just in unstable ice, but also in underestimating nature's unpredictability. Her understanding deepened that each step posed risks and chances for discovery, strengthening her resolve to face what lies ahead, despite the cold wind's chill. The vast horizon lay ahead, full of mysteries, yet she no longer felt entirely powerless. The delicate balance of trust and caution had shifted, and she understood their survival depended on preserving it. With renewed resolve, she moved forward, prepared for whatever lay beyond the icy frontiers. Emma stood still by the water, her coat tightly wrapped as the cold wind cut through, making her cheeks burn. Her breath formed visible puffs that quickly vanished into the frosty air, blending with mist rising from the lake. Behind her stretched, dark, silent water, disturbed only by a faint whisper drifting from beneath the ice as if the lake was whispering secrets. She closed her eyes briefly to focus on that sound the voice carried softly by the wind almost like a lullaby. Yet beneath the calm, she sensed something more urgent beneath that serenity. The moon's dim light cast a silver glow over cracked ice, revealing jagged fissures resembling veins across its surface. Emma watched as these lines shimmered strangely under the faint glow reflections of stars or metallic gleams. Her fingers trembled as she touched the cold surface through her gloves, but hesitated, torn between curiosity and caution. The voice returned softer this time, like a caress, urging her to listen carefully. She pressed her palm against the icy surface and felt slight movement beneath. A crack near her toes pulsed faintly as if alive. She wondered whether her senses deceived her or if something lurked beneath. Her heart fluttered with mixture of anticipation and fear. Was it just the wind teasing her or an unseen presence lurking beneath? Memories of her husband flickered quiet mornings at the lake and stories about mysterious depths. She clenched her jaw, fighting rising unease as a shiver ran down her spine. Her gaze fixed on the dark water past the ice, while faint melodic sounds called to her softly, whispering her name. Her instincts urged retreat, yet her feet refused. She felt a magnetic pull to listen closer and understand what lay beneath. Her hand pressed against the icy crust as a crack widened, revealing swirling darkness pulsing with life. The silence deepened until a heartbeat like hum resonated from below. Emma sensed something ancient awakening beneath the ice. Suddenly, a gust of wind caused cracking sounds, and a tendril of mist rose from the fissure, curling upward as the whisper grew more urgent to listen and comprehend. She felt her heartbeat match the vibrations below, as if the ground itself called her into its mystery. A whisper brushed her ear, warm and soft, like a distant memory trying to reach her. The voice was unhearable but inviting, stirring forgotten feelings and desires. Emma's hand trembled on the icy surface as the fissure widened faintly, revealing swirling darkness beneath. She sensed an awakening beneath the ice that threatened to break the fragile barrier. The voice grew more insistent, whispering secrets she longed to understand. Flashbacks of her husband and their life flickered in her mind, pushing her toward a decision. A sudden crack startled her as the ice shifted, and her instincts urged retreat, but her heart held on to the strange allure. The voice, offering understanding and reassurance, kept her anchored. She took a deep breath of cold air and made a deliberate decision to remain, to listen, and confront what lay hidden beneath. As she steadied herself, the line between her memories and the mysterious depths blurred. The lake's call grew from a whisper to a symphony, echoing the past, present, and uncertain future. Emma closed her eyes briefly, surrendering to the compelling force drawing her inward. She understood that secrets beneath the icy surface must be uncovered. The voice from below was calling with promises of answers, perhaps long-buried truths. Prepared to listen even at great risk, Emma sensed her perception shift. The depths beneath the ice were no longer silent threats, but gateways to something profound and awakening, changing her forever. Her internal conflict turned into resolve. She was no longer just an observer, but an active participant in this unfolding mystery. The lake reflected her hidden fears and desires. She was determined to face what lurked beneath, knowing her journey into the unknown was just beginning. The cold night pressed on Emma as she stood by the battered sled, its wood scarred from harsh years. Above, the endless sky faintly lit by distant stars piercing through thick clouds. Frost coated the ground like a sparkling shroud of tiny diamonds. A whispering wind moved through skeletal branches, carrying rustling sounds dancing with shadows. Her breath formed brief clouds that vanished into the cold, silent landscape. A quick shadow caught her eye, flickering on the snow. Emma focused as a figure appeared, a young boy about 16 with messy hair and wary eyes. He looked around nervously before fixing his gaze on her. Silently, he paused, then moved closer, hands in his jacket pockets, trying to guard against both cold and fear. "Who are you?" Emma asked quietly, voice barely audible over the night's hush. Her fingers brushed her shawl for warmth. The boy hesitated and softly smiled. "Yuki, I saw you from the trees, heard the ice crack, thought you might need help." Emma was taken aback by his frankness. She expected fear or suspicion, but found a young, brave stranger offering help in the darkness. She nodded slowly, voice steady. "Yes, I hear strange sounds, and the ice is cracking more than before. I worry what's underneath." Yuki moved closer, eyes narrowing as he looked at the frozen surface. "My friends told me stories about the lake, something waking beneath the ice. I don't know if it's true, but I've seen strange lights and heard odd noises lately. It feels alive somehow." Emma's gaze caught the moon's silver glow reflected on the icy shoreline. As her mind raced with her husband's tales of hidden secrets and whispers deep below, seeking answers to these mysterious events haunting her nights. "You're wise to be cautious," she whispered, her voice slightly trembling. "The ice cracks, more often something may be trying to emerge or call from below. I can't tell which is scarier." Yuki nodded quietly, staring at the glowing surface. "Maybe we're both curious and frightened. I wanted to see what's really going on. My grandfather always said the lake holds memories, things that refuse to be forgotten. Perhaps it's time we listen." Emma felt a chill as she looked at him, sensing a mix of trust and concern, someone fearless of darkness, ready to face the unknown with her. Her doubts and worries seemed lighter nearby. "Stay close," she whispered, pointing toward the shoreline path. "To uncover what's beneath the ice, we must proceed carefully. The unpredictable cracks hide more than shadows in the dark night." Yuki nodded, holding a small flashlight from his pocket, ready to help see better. "We must stay quiet. Whatever's beneath reacts to noise, I think." Emma paused, then agreed, clutching her talisman as a reminder of strength inside. She took a deep breath, stepped onto the ice with Yuki close behind, feeling the cold fill her lungs. A faint melodic hum rose from below, subtle at first, but growing clearer and resonating deeply, drawing her in. Yuki's light revealed fragile, trembling patches of ice and dark shapes, moving beneath twisted forms beneath the surface, hinting at unseen life below. "Emma," Yuki whispered, eyes wide with awe and caution. "Can you see that? It's like the lake's breathing. Something is alive underneath." She nodded slowly, gazing at the mysterious shapes. "It's more than just that, it's calling out, trying to communicate. I feel it like a voice from the past, from deep within memory and silence." Suddenly, the ice beneath them trembled violently, cracking sharply across the frozen surface. The faint glow flickered as if reacting to their presence, then faded. Emma instinctively grabbed Yuki's arm to steady herself, her heartbeat pounding loudly. The shadows below seemed to pulse rhythmically. "We must retreat," she said firmly, her voice strained but determined. "The lake is warning us something is awakening, and staying here is dangerous." Yuki's eyes widened, but he nodded in agreement. They carefully turned back along the cracked ice, each step filled with haunting melodies from beneath secrets awakening beneath the surface. Emma paused at the shoreline, glancing again at the glowing silent lake, realizing the awakening was near. The stirring beneath the frozen depths was calling to both her and the boy. She clutched her talisman tightly, knowing danger was closer than before. Yuki's presence changed everything. She no longer faced this alone, and their fragile alliance might reveal ancient truths. The cold night persisted, but Emma's determination grew. She had stepped into the unknown and was now part of the mystery unfolding. The pale moonlight revealed dark cracks on the frozen surface, while a sudden gust carried a hum that made or shiver. The fissure's edges widened further, exposing a dark, swirling void below. A deep moaning sound resonated through the air as the hum intensified, vibrating through Emma's chest, warning them to retreat. Her eyes darted toward the horizon, where the wind grew stronger and carried an almost human whisper, either a plea or a threat, drawing her in either direction. Her fists clenched involuntarily, fighting rising panic. She focused instead on escaping, grasping Yuki's wrist firmly yet gently. "We must move now carefully. Stay close and steady," she said calmly amid chaos, heart pounding with urgency. The environment shifted quickly. Hesitation could be fatal. Yuki hesitated briefly before nodding with resolve. They cautiously stepped back in unison as the ice beneath groaned louder than before, warning of collapse. Emma's gaze fixed on the fissure's edge, noticing a strange glow and almost alive shimmer emanating from within the crack. The lake pulsed rhythmically, hinting at an ancient mysterious message beneath its fractured surface. A sudden gust from the fissure's direction swept across the ice, echoing with a deep, unsettling gurgle. The sound rippled through the ice like a heartbeat, sharpening Emma's senses. She understood the lake was reacting not just to them, but possibly to something awakening underneath. The pulsing glow intensified in sync with her racing heartbeat, signaling a darker force stirring beneath. Without warning, a loud crack sounded below their feet. Emma froze, watching the jagged fracture spread across the ice, a clear warning that the lake was becoming restless and agitated. The vibrating hum urged quick action as she felt an ancient energy awakening within the frozen surface. Yuki tugged her sleeve wordlessly, eyes wide in fear. "Is it going to break?" he whispered nervously. Emma nodded silently, her mind racing with danger. They had no time to stay. She cautiously stepped back to guide Yuki away from the fissure, aware that any mistake could be disastrous. Suddenly, a deafening crack shattered the silence as a large ice chunk tilted dangerously, risking breakage. Emma's stomach sank as she pulled Yuki toward firmer ice, watching the horizon for further signs of collapse. The wind's scream grew louder, and the low hum underneath reached a crescendo, as if the lake was crying out in warning or despair. At that moment, Emma realized their fight with nature's force was far from over. Only by understanding its silent cry Could they prevent disaster? Her heart raced not with fear, but with resolve to listen and act quickly. The lake's voice was intensifying, pressing her to move before time ran out. Emma stayed still on the cracked shoreline, breath forming small clouds in the cold air. Pale dawn light stretched across jagged ice shadows, highlighting fissures across the surface. Her gaze remained on the tiny wolf cub tucked in a snowdrift near her feet, trembling nervously with dilated pupils showing fear, but trust in her presence amid chaos. Her hands clenched tightly as she hesitated, knowing each second deepened dangers below. A faint hum drifted up from beneath the ice, carried by the wind's whisper, a subtle lullaby layered with urgent warning. Emma's chest tightened as she watched the helpless creature, contemplating her risky options amid the cracking ice. Her gaze shifted to the widening crack, dark water swirling menacingly below as tremors intensified. The distant rumble shook her bones like the earth awakening beneath, filling her with dread. She clutched the talisman of her late husband, pressed the trembling cub to her chest, and hesitated, knowing each step on the fragile ice was a gamble. This was no ordinary creek. It signaled something stirring beneath the surface, an unseen force awakening deep inside. Her mind flashed with visions of darkness lurking below, of the unknown calling through the tremors. The danger of staying grew more pressing, like the heavy sky above. She hesitated, then cautiously stepped back from the edge, eyes flitting between the widening crack and the trembling cub. Her heart pounded fiercely, torn between saving and surviving. This choice was about more than immediate danger. It meant facing her fears, the dread of losing what little she had, and risking what might rise from the abyss if she stayed. Her fingers brushed the talisman again, grounding her amid chaos. A sudden icy gust pushed past, tugging her coat and urging her forward. Clenching her jaw, she gently squeezed the cub before turning away from the collapsing shore. Her mind was set. She'd prioritize safety, knowing that true danger might be waking beneath the ice waiting for her to approach. A sobering thought settled. Sometimes survival requires sacrifice, even for a small life depending on her. She moved inland, glancing briefly at the shattered scene behind her, a silent farewell. The cold dawn lit her resolute face as her footsteps crunched silently over snow each step, a quiet act of defiance against encroaching darkness. Her awareness heightened. Every decision carried weight, each life, each memory, each moment of courage. She pressed onward into the safety of the forest, leaving behind the fleeting hope that had flickered in her heart. As she vanished among the trees, her awareness remained tuned to the distant ominous rumbling beneath the ice and awakening force below. The landscape was forever changed. Her view of danger had grown deeper. Survival now meant confronting unseen threats beneath the surface, not just fleeing immediate peril. Each step, driven by resilience, kept her moving forward, clutching Yuki close as a symbol of vulnerability and strength. The cold wind whispered around her, but her spirit burned brighter. Her journey was about embracing inner darkness and facing what lay ahead with courage. Emma's breath fogged the icy air as she crossed the fractured surface, Yuki close behind, hearing the loud groan of shifting ice warning of collapse. The tension was palpable. Cracks grew louder and more constant, a sign that disaster was near. The wind tore at her coat as shadows flickered in the moonlight against jagged cracks on the surface. Emma's eyes quickly scanned for a safer path, but the terrain ahead was a maze of cracks and unstable patches. She glanced at Yuki, whose trembling figure reflected a rising panic. His face was pale, eyes full of terror, yet there was determination in his look. Emma's mind raced. Stopping wasn't an option. The fissure behind was spreading fast, ice chunks crashing into dark water below with loud splashes. The danger of the ice collapsing completely was real and immediate. Suddenly, a loud crack split the silence, followed by a deep growl vibrating through the surface. Emma froze, holding Yuki's arm tightly to keep him steady. In that moment, she saw the fissure ahead expand violently, edges splintering, while dark water shimmered beneath. The unstable edge was just meters away, trembling as if the entire ice sheet might give way. A fierce gust of wind whipped snow and ice shards into their faces, blinding them. Emma looked at the shoreline. An uneven strip of solid ground just within reach appeared suddenly. Heart pounding, she moved forward despite or fear tightening around her chest. Flashbacks of her husband's warnings about the lake's unpredictability flashed through her mind, the stories of sudden ice breaks and catastrophe. Now those warnings felt terrifyingly real. The wind unexpectedly turned, whipping snow into their eyes and reducing visibility. Emma leaned into her coat, pulling Yuki's arm to keep him steady. The cracking underfoot grew louder, the surface trembling as if the lake was splitting apart beneath them. Her instincts urged her to run faster and reach safety before the ice broke completely. Suddenly, Emma saw a more intact patch of ice near the shore, less cracked and more secure. She shouted over the wind, "Yuki, this way! Hurry!" Tugging him toward safer ground. His legs moved instinctively, but exhaustion showed in his breathing. They continued forward, each step risky with unstable ground beneath. Approaching the patch, Emma's gaze sharpened as cracking sounds diminished slightly, and silence grew tense, broken only by their hearts pounding and distant ice groans. She scanned the terrain for signs of more instability. The thin strip of solid ice appeared as their only hope, though she knew it wasn't entirely safe. At last, they reached the edge of the stable area. Emma and Yuki escaped falling ice, but the dark waters beneath still hinted at unseen dangers lurking below. A sudden gust shifted the snowstorm, revealing a faint glow beneath the water, flickering mysteriously. Emma's eyes widened, sensing something alive behind the chaos of ice. She held her coat tightly and looked back at the fractured terrain, realizing their ordeal was only starting. The silence under the ice was broken as the unseen watcher stirred and her resolve strengthened. Yuki's exhausted and fearful face made or determined that their fight was far from over. Something else was awakening below. The glow pulsed ominously beneath the surface, hinting at a dark heartbeat. Emma stared into the depths, heart pounding with fear, and resolve whatever called from beneath had not been silenced. Their escape was tenuous. Now they faced a new enemy lurking in shadow, just beginning to emerge. Emma silently stood on the icy shore, gazing at the mirror-like surface before her. Dawn's muted amber glow highlighted fractures in the snow-dusted ice, shimmering faintly in the cold. The silence was deep. The cold numbed her cheeks as a strange calm settled within. The recent chaos, the cracks, distant calls, restless wind had faded into peaceful reverence for this fragile, frozen scene. Her breath briefly formed clouds that vanished into the crisp air. She reached out trembling fingers to feel the icy crust beneath, rough with frost. The ice was solid and unyielding, yet delicate like a polished mirror bearing hidden tension. Each crack whispered stories of forces shifting underfoot. She backed away slowly, eyes drifting across the vast expanse, memories flickering like shadows, her husband's voice, their quiet evenings, shared comfort. Briefly closing her eyes, Emma took a deep breath, finding grounding amidst the icy stillness. The lake had long been a mystery and danger, but also solace. Now it lay silent, a barrier from what lies beneath. A gentle breeze stirred snowfalls with faint rustling sounds, almost like whispers ice, seeming to breathe softly. She sensed something had shifted beneath the ice, perhaps stabilizing or currents calming. A faint sunlight hue touched the horizon over the frozen landscape, a fragile glow as delicate as her heartbeat, inspiring quiet gratitude. A gentle warmth grew inside her, acknowledging that life moved on despite fears and doubts. The lake no longer threatened, it was silent, still, hiding mysteries beneath. Her eyes saw cracks in the snow. She knelt, revealing a small footprint, possibly a bird or something more elusive, nearby. She wondered if the creature she saw was still lurking under the ice. A faint smile touched her lips, tinged with sadness, recalling the rescued wolf cub's resilience. Silence comforted her now, easing her lingering worries as she looked at the vast mirror before her. Her heartbeat slowed in harmony with the frozen world around her, fears fading into shadows with dawn. A gust of wind blew snow into a swirling dance. She watched them settle as brighter rays brought clarity. Peace is a form of strength, not absence of danger. The peaceful lake reminded her that life endures beneath the surface, hidden yet resilient. Emma slowly rose, feeling joint aches, but gained clarity. Past fears taught her to listen nature's whispers and her instincts. The icy barrier signified endurance and life's quiet persistence amid hardships. She turned inland, gaze fixed on shimmering cracks, carrying memories and gentle acceptance. Shadows lingered, yet the future appeared uncertain but full of potential. The endless silent dawn beckoned her forward bravely into the unknown beyond the ice. Stepping away, she felt lighter. The lake had silently spoken, and she had listened. Her inner resolve grew stronger, a quiet acknowledgement she was no longer alone, fueled by memories and hope. The new day marked a chapter of understanding and acceptance unfolding ahead.